Nicholas Reeves pulled up to his 400-acre rice farm at 5:47 a.m. and killed the engine. Silence, except for water where water shouldn't be. He jogged toward the central gate and found the headworks mangled, timbers snapped like they'd been pried open. The rice stood drowning, bent and ruined, deep in the mud beside the gate. Tire tracks cut away toward the highway, fresh, distinct. Someone had been here after midnight.
Morrow. It's Nicholas Reeves. My levee's been torn open. I've lost the entire crop. This wasn't weather. It was deliberate.
Deliberate. You are telling me we just lost 80,000 emergency meals for the Gulf Coast cash.
The gate was pried open. Tire tracks. I'll send photos, but the rice is gone. Every acre.
Stay put. I am notifying the regional director and the Department of Agriculture. This is a federal crisis, Nicholas.
The water-stained pages read, "Supplier agrees to deliver 80,000 shelf-stable rice meals to FEMA's regional stockpile by the 15th of September. The pages were already smeared.
2 weeks from harvest. Who does something like this?
By the time the sheriff's deputy arrived, Nicholas knew two things. Someone had targeted him personally, and those 80,000 meals weren't coming. 3 weeks earlier, those same fields stood green and orderly, the rice heavy with grain. A federal contract hung over every acre.
80,000 meals depend on this crop. If the water fails, the rice fails. The rice fails. No room for error.
Then a magenta windbreaker cut through the green. Olivia Henshaw, HOA chair, marched up his driveway clutching a letter like a warrant.
You need to drain these paddies now. They're breeding mosquitoes, and I've got 16 homeowners ready to file a health complaint.
These are controlled flood paddies, ma'am. The water is managed. Mosquitoes don't breed here. The county already checked.
I don't care what the county says. We paid $400,000 for our homes, and I won't have them infested.
Look, this contract supplies 80,000 emergency meals to FEMA's disaster stockpile. This farm is a federal asset. You can't just shut it down.
A piece of paper won't stop a public health hazard. I'll file complaints with the Board of Health, the county, the governor if I have to.
That woman is going to be a problem. The contract protects me, but she doesn't care about anything but her HOA rules.
Nicholas filed her threat alongside the contract in his truck, not yet knowing how far a wounded HOA chair would go. The crop stood tall. For 2 more weeks. The county health inspector arrived 2 days later. Nicholas walked him past every levee, and the man kept shaking his head. The inspector found no standing, stagnant water. The constant flow prevented mosquito breeding. He closed the file without a citation.
I filed a formal complaint with the Board of Health. Those rice paddies are a breeding ground, and I won't rest until they're drained.
A man in the back row muttered something about city folk, and a third of the room laughed. Olivia's face went red.
They think this is a joke. They won't be laughing when the health department shuts that farm down.
That night, Olivia spread county water permits across her kitchen table. She circled the levee gates on a survey map.
Open the right gate, and gravity does the rest. No one would know until morning. I need a favor, and I need it done tonight. Cash. No questions. Nicholas Reeves thinks his federal contract protects him. It won't protect him from a broken gate.
By the end of the week, Olivia had a plan and a man willing to carry it out. Nicholas's rice stood ripe, 2 weeks from harvest, but someone was counting down faster. At midnight, a sedan with no headlights rolled down the farm road and stopped beside the central levee. Olivia Henshaw stepped out, a crowbar in her hand. She wedged the bar into the gate mechanism and threw her weight against it. The timbers splintered, and water roared through the breach.
That will take care of the mosquitoes for good.
6 hours later, Nicholas stood in the same spot, phone pressed to his ear, this time calling the sheriff. The deputy walked the levee, as Nicholas pointed out the tire tracks and the fresh splintering. None of it was enough to make an arrest.
I know it was her. She threatened me. But without a witness, my word means nothing.
Then came the call to crop insurance. The adjuster's tone changed when Nicholas used the word sabotage.
So you're telling me vandalism isn't covered until police close the case? That could take months.
No claim, no payout, and a federal contract that would demand performance or penalties. The pages of that contract already felt heavier than water. 2 weeks from harvest, the paddies lay under 4 feet of uncontrolled floodwater in a FEMA warehouse 3 states away. A stockpile that had looked full on paper was about to hit zero. 2 weeks later, Hurricane Celeste tore into Louisiana, a Category 4 pushing a 20-foot surge 30 miles inland. In a FEMA warehouse near Houston, David Morrow pulled up the emergency meal inventory. The screen flashed a number no one had ever seen: 0.
Nicholas, where are those rice meals? The stockpile is empty. We've got shelters calling every 10 minutes.
The crop is gone, Morrow. Someone sabotaged my levee. I filed a police report, but they haven't made an arrest.
Gone? You're telling me this now? 3,000 evacuees in Gulfport, and we have nothing to feed them.
I should have screamed louder when it happened. Now it's too late.
By evening, television anchors framed it as a national emergency. FEMA's Gulf Coast meal stockpile had collapsed. The newspaper headline the next morning screamed, "FEMA admits critical shortage. Shelters report hunger." In 3 states, shelters ran out of hot meals by day 4. Families lined up for food that never arrived. Nicholas sat in his dark farmhouse, the water-stained contract in front of him, and knew 80,000 people were hungry because of one person's spite. At the Gulfport shelter, Ellen Trask stood by a stack of empty boxes. The last hot meal had been handed out 3 hours ago.
I've got nothing left. Not a single meal. Call FEMA again and tell them to dig up something.
A 7-year-old girl sat on an army cot, clutching a paper plate that hadn't held food since yesterday.
We promised them safety. They're getting hunger. This can't go on.
Back in Arkansas, Nicholas couldn't look away from the television. Angry evacuees, a shelter director in tears, the news crawl reading FEMA crisis deepens.
Every face on that screen, every child with an empty plate, that's on me. The neighbor down the road asked if it looked like sabotage. It does, but police won't move without proof.
At the feed store, people turned their backs. Some said the farmer should have planned better.
They think I failed. They don't know someone did this on purpose.
By day 5, the shelters scraped empty crates. Nicholas couldn't sleep. The woman in magenta? She slept just fine. On day 6, a state agricultural investigator walked the ruined levee. He photographed every splinter and measured the angle of the break. His report confirmed deliberate vandalism, tool marks consistent with a pry bar. Sabotage became an official word.
Someone finally sees what I see. Now, the police might actually listen.
2 days later, a sheriff's cruiser pulled into Olivia Henshaw's driveway. Curtains twitched along the cul-de-sac.
I have no idea what you are talking about. I've never touched his property. This is harassment. They have nothing. A tool mark isn't a fingerprint.
Nicholas saw the deputy drive away from his truck. No handcuffs, but the investigation had a name now. A local news site ran the headline: "Police question HOA chair in rice farm vandalism." No arrest, but the dots were connecting.
She's a suspect. It's not justice yet, but it's a crack in her wall.
The investigation was now public. The question wasn't if someone did it, it was who. All eyes turned toward the subdivision. Nicholas agreed to one interview. He wore his work jacket and stood in front of the flooded fields.
Someone deliberately breached my levee. I know who did it, but I can't prove it yet. The police are investigating.
A reporter asked if the HOA had threatened him.
Olivia Henshaw, the HOA chair, told me she'd file complaints until the paddies were drained. 2 days later, my gate was broken.
Within hours, the internet had a name for it. HOA Karen flooded my rice paddy. Shares climbed past 1 million.
That liar. He's trying to ruin me. They're calling me that name online. You have to do something. Get a lawyer. Make it stop.
She scrubbed her social media and deleted texts. It was too late. The next day's newspaper ran the story nationally. FEMA rice crisis traced to HOA feud. Nicholas watched the news from his truck, the public finally turning toward the truth. He still didn't have justice, but he had a crowd demanding it. Jack Whitfield of the Arkansas Rice Federation faced the cameras in Little Rock.
This was not an accident. Someone destroyed a federal food supply. We are calling on every agency to treat this as a crime.
The governor tweeted, "We will find the saboteur. Arkansans feed America."
At a FEMA press briefing, David Morrow confirmed the shortage was caused by deliberate crop destruction, calling it an unprecedented federal crisis.
Nicholas watched a split screen. His flooded field on one side, Olivia's house surrounded by reporters on the other.
They're taking this seriously. But until she's arrested, I can't relax.
That afternoon, Olivia's lawyer called. The words federal charges turned her face white.
He said it could be interference with disaster response. A felony. I didn't think it would go this far.
The Rice Federation demanded a full federal investigation. The governor's office pledged resources. The machinery of state and federal justice now had a single target: the woman in magenta. A neighbor's security camera, aimed at the farm road, captured a dark sedan at 12:14 a.m. and a figure in a magenta windbreaker. The footage leaked to a local news crew, then to the national networks. They froze the frame on the magenta jacket. Within hours, the clip had 4 million views and a hashtag Hokaran flooding, burning across every platform. Her husband watched the broadcast in the living room. "Did you do this?" he asked, his voice flat.
I told him it was a misunderstanding, but the look on his face said he'd already made up his mind.
A text from her sister lit up her phone. "I can't believe you did this. Aunt Margaret is in a shelter, and you are the reason there's no food." Nicholas sat in his truck and replayed the leaked footage on his phone. The gray video of Olivia's sedan, unmistakable.
Now the world sees what I saw. She can't hide behind her HOA title anymore.
By evening, a mock mugshot of Olivia Henshaw circulated online with the words HOA Karen stamped in red. Every station ran it. Her phone buzzed incessantly, relatives calling to disown her. The name Henshaw had become a curse inside her own family. At the Gulfport shelter, a tired reporter knelt by an elderly woman on a cot. She hadn't had a hot meal in 5 days.
My name is Margaret Henshaw. I am 78. We came from Lake Charles before the water hit. My son was supposed to come, but the roads washed out. I haven't heard from him in 3 days. I am alone here.
The reporter scribbled notes: Henshaw, 78, no food day 5, separated from family.
I keep praying someone will find me. I have family, but I don't know if they're safe.
The reporter asked if she had any family near Arkansas.
My niece, Olivia Henshaw, lives up in Arkansas. She's a big shot in that HOA group. I always brag about her.
The reporter's pen stopped. He stared at his notes, then back at the woman. He checked the breaking news on his phone. Olivia Henshaw, HOA chair suspected in rice sabotage, FEMA meal crisis. He looked down at the starving old woman and back at the screen. The connection nobody saw coming was now staring him in the face. By noon, the national news confirmed it. Margaret Henshaw, 78, found starving in a Gulfport shelter, was the aunt of Olivia Henshaw.
Olivia? She did this? My own niece? No, it can't be.
In Arkansas, Olivia Henshaw saw the headline on her phone: "Saboteur's aunt starves in shelter." She dropped it as if burned.
No, that's not possible. Aunt Margaret? She was in Louisiana. How could she be there?
Her husband walked in, set his keys on the counter, and walked out again without a word. The front door didn't slam. It clicked shut.
He knows. Everyone knows. I'll never be able to look at them again.
Her brother's voicemail: "You are dead to us, Olivia. Aunt Margaret almost died because of you. Don't ever contact this family again."
I did it for the mosquitoes. I didn't think about the FEMA meals. I didn't think about anyone else.
She took down the family photos one by one, stacking them on the dining table like a funeral. By nightfall, she sat alone in the dark, the 3 words her brother had said echoing louder than any news report. "You are dead to us." The next morning, Margaret Henshaw sat before a camera in the shelter, her voice trembling as she spoke to the nation.
I kept asking the volunteers why there wasn't any food. They said it was gone. I couldn't understand why.
The reporter told her the reason. A woman had flooded a rice farm in Arkansas, destroying the emergency food supply.
What kind of person does that? Knowing people would starve. That poor farmer.
Then the reporter added a detail Margaret didn't know. The name of the woman was Olivia Henshaw.
My own Olivia. I raised her. I taught her better than this. How could she do it? I don't want to say it, but I don't think I can forgive her. Not after this.
Alone in her dark house, Olivia watched the interview. Her aunt's image filled every inch of the screen.
She raised me, and I starved her. There's no coming back from this.
By the time the interview ended, her family group chat had 3 new messages. "You saw that? We all saw it. She's not one of us anymore." On the 3rd day after Margaret's interview, FBI agents pulled into Olivia Henshaw's driveway. She answered the door, still wearing her magenta windbreaker.
What is this? You can't just take me out of my house.
That same morning, David Morrow testified before a congressional subcommittee. The room was silent as he read the numbers aloud.
80,000 emergency meals were lost due to a deliberate act of vandalism. 3 shelters ran out of food entirely.
By afternoon, a coalition of hurricane survivors filed a class action lawsuit. The complaint named Olivia Henshaw as the primary defendant and sought damages for hunger, displacement, and emotional harm.
They've got her, but it doesn't bring back the crop. It doesn't feed the people who starved.
At the federal courthouse, Olivia was booked. Her mugshot circulated again, the magenta jacket, the hollow eyes. Her attorney entered a not guilt plea, but the judge denied bail, citing the national scope of the crime and the risk of flight. The civil suits multiplied. Families who'd gone days without food, the state of Arkansas seeking restitution, and the Red Cross filing for recovery of costs. The machinery of justice had Olivia Henshaw in its grip. Federal prison, civil ruin, and a family that had erased her name. There was no going back. 2 days after Olivia's arrest, Nicholas drove to the Gulfport shelter. He needed to see the face of someone who suffered because of his missing crop.
You are the rice farmer. I saw you on television. Come sit with me. I don't want revenge, Mr. Reeves. My niece did a terrible thing, but hatred won't fill empty stomachs. I just want to heal.
She lost almost everything. Her family, her home, her faith in her niece. And she's asking me to let go. Call the lawyers. Tell them I am dropping the civil suit against Olivia Henshaw. The federal case is enough. I am not forgiving her. But chasing revenge would keep me from replanting, and people need rice next hurricane season.
He drove home and walked the ruined levee, not as a victim, but as a man who had decided what to rebuild.
First, the levee, then the fields. If I start now, I can plant by April and have a harvest for next year's contract.
A week later, FEMA sent a letter, a new emergency contract for the same 80,000 meals, contingent on replanting. Nicholas signed it without hesitation. The choice not to sue cost him a personal victory, but it gave him back his farm, his purpose, and the chance to feed strangers again. At the pre-trial hearing, Olivia's defense argued the levee broke from water pressure, an act of God, not sabotage. The prosecutor rose and entered a printed log into the record. Olivia's search history, dated 2 days before the breach. The search read, "How to drain a rice paddy without anyone knowing." The courtroom went silent.
I cleared my browser. How did they find that?
A hardware store clerk took the stand and identified Olivia Henshaw as the woman who bought a crowbar on the 2nd of September, paying cash.
It was one purchase. I wore sunglasses. He still remembered.
After the hearing, her attorney pulled her aside. He told her the evidence was overwhelming and advised her to consider a plea.
Plead guilty. If I do, I'll never own a home again, never chair an HOA. But if I don't, I might never get out.
Olivia told her attorney she would not plead guilty. She would take the stand and explain it was an accident. The trial date was set. The jury pool waited. The state had its evidence, and Olivia Henshaw had no one left to call a witness. On the second day of trial, Governor Blake Harwood stood on the Capitol steps, a written statement in hand. Cameras clustered in front of him.
The vandalism that sabotaged FEMA's emergency supply was not a prank. It was an attack on our nation's food security. We demand the maximum penalty.
Farmers must be protected. If a single person can destroy a federal contract and starve thousands, then the punishment must be severe enough to stop the next one.
Inside the courtroom, Nicholas Reeves took the stand. He wore the same gray plaid shirt he'd had on the morning the water came.
I planted that rice with my grandfather's methods. It was supposed to feed people after a storm. Instead, I watched it drown.
He described the morning, the broken gate, the tire tracks, the call to FEMA. His voice never raised, but the courtroom was absolutely still.
He's not angry. He's just tired, and that's worse.
When the prosecution rested, the jury retired to deliberate. 300 miles away, shelters still held hungry survivors waiting for the next harvest. The jury had the evidence. The public had its verdict, but the law would take its time. Nicholas sat in the gallery, his hands folded, waiting. After 6 hours, the jury sent word they had a verdict. The courtroom refilled in under 3 minutes. The foreman stood and read the single word that silenced the room: guilty. Guilty, guilty of interference with a federal disaster response. Guilty of vandalism. Guilty of reckless endangerment. The judge listed the loss for the record: 80,000 meals destroyed, 3 shelters out of food, hundreds of families left hungry by one deliberate act.
They all said guilty. I am not going home. I am never going home.
Her sister stood in the gallery, tears streaming, and walked out before the judge finished. The door clicked shut behind her.
It's over. The crop, the shelters, that weight I've carried finally lifted.
The judge scheduled sentencing for 2 weeks later. The court would hear victim impact statements before determining the penalty.
I defended my HOA until there was nothing left. And now I have nothing left at all.
The verdict was final. Olivia Henshaw was a felon. The HOA queen who'd flooded a rice paddy had buried herself in the wreckage, but the sentence would decide how long she'd stay under. That part was still unwritten. The day of sentencing, a video screen lit the courtroom. Margaret Henshaw's face appeared, seated in a quiet nursing home room.
I sat in that shelter for 5 days, without a hot meal. I watched children cry because of my own kin. Olivia Henshaw is no longer my niece. My family and I disown her. She caused this, and we cannot forgive it.
The video ended. Olivia rose, her mouth opening to speak through sobs, but the judge raised a hand.
Please, I never meant.
The judge cut in. Your actions caused immeasurable suffering. The maximum allowed by law is the only proportional sentence. He imposed 72 months in federal prison and ordered full restitution to FEMA and the class of survivors.
6 years. Every wall I built is gone.
Marshals handcuffed her wrists behind her back. The click echoed. No family came forward. She walked through the side door, and the last person to see her was a reporter's camera. The magenta windbreaker was gone. Nicholas Reeves emerged from the courthouse into a cloud of camera flashes. For a moment, he simply stood still.
I lost my crop, but others lost far more. Justice was served, but there are no winners today. I want to thank the court and the investigators.
A reporter asked if he felt vindicated.
Vindication won't put rice on a plate. I'll rebuild, and I'll be ready for the next hurricane season.
As he drove home, his phone rang. The screen read Governor Harwood.
Nicholas, this is Blake Harwood. You showed true American resilience. Arkansas is proud to call you a farmer.
Thank you, Governor. I just did what my grandpa taught me. Keep planting, no matter what.
The next morning, the Arkansas Rice Federation announced the Emergency Harvest Fund to protect federal food contracts. A FEMA truck arrived with fresh rice sacks, a small sign that the emergency supply chain was being rebuilt. He turned off the main road onto his farm lane. The quiet of the evening settled over him, deeper than any applause. By the following spring, the levee breach was mended with new timber and the hands of neighbors who showed up without being asked. Nicholas worked alongside them, the sun on his back, the mud drying into something that could hold seed again. The first green shoots pushed through the water in long, even rows, rice, fragile but relentless.
Looks just like Grandpa's fields used to. Feels like home again.
A FEMA inspector walked the paddies, nodded, and stamped the certification for the new emergency contract. Inside his mailbox, among bills and farm catalogs, a handwritten envelope waited. The note read, "Dear Nicholas, you sat with me when I had nothing. Now I have a small room and plenty of food. You are a good man. God bless you. Margaret Henshaw."
She lost her family and still sent kindness. That's more than I could have done.
He read the letter twice, then tucked it into the same kitchen drawer where he kept his grandfather's deed. Outside, the rice grew toward a harvest that would feed strangers in a storm he hoped would never come. But if it did, he'd be ready. From the air, the farm looked like a quilt of emerald and water, stitched back together by a man who refused to let hate win. Nicholas Reeves walked his land every evening, not to guard it, but to listen. The rice told him when the water was right, when the air was warm, when to worry. He would sit on the porch as the sun went down, the same spot he'd been when the flood came. In a quiet nursing home, Margaret Henshaw ate a small meal and watched the evening news. The story of her niece, finally, a closed chapter. The federal contract was renewed. The emergency stockpile was secure. But the real harvest wasn't rice. It was a letter from an old woman who had nothing left, and yet gave him something he'd almost lost: hope that people could still be good. Some disasters are made by people, but so is the kindness that follows. The land didn't keep score. It just waited for the next season and the next farmer willing to plant. And Nicholas Reeves was still planting, just like his grandfather taught him.